Welcome back again to another episode of HTML lessons. In the previous videos, we looked at forms and some little interface of forms and what it's looking like. So today I'm going to go a little bit deeper and be more professional on our listening. What I really want us to know is another kind of attribute called a label. Okay, now this is not the right way of putting the username like this. It's not the right way, okay, of putting a label on our form. Okay, so there is a particular attribute called the label, okay, tag code that we use for words. Okay, so now let's look at the feature of the label. So the label goes with the label tag like this. So here we have label, and so let's go for label. Good. Over here it's open. So okay, now the label is what is really going to contain the description of or what actually the input is going to mean. Okay, so label, now the label has a particular attribute called the for. Okay, the for now the for is just like an id, okay, or yes, an id to identify or to give a name to the what, to the form, so we can link it with any other inputs in terms of using verification or some kind of dynamic or some responsive input. Okay, so the for is over there, but right now we don't need the for right now. All we want is that we want to see user name. Okay, so username, right? Very good. So over here too, we need a label for the password too. So instead of the input test password, okay, so the password over here, good, here is it, here is the password. So I'll put what, label. So we do label, we open our label, close it, and we put in password. Oh, my password is getting weird. Password. Okay, so let's go and see how this is going to look like. All right, so here we go. So you see the same thing, username, and then what, password. Okay, password. So that is a bit about the label. I think we have to do the same for the email. So email. Okay, let's put the email in the label. So over here we have a label, then we put in email, correct. Password. Okay, so let's go and see how it looks. So this is how it's going to be. Okay, so there's no difference, but this is a more what acceptable way the browser will be able to read all your codes and know which elements means and which elements stand for. So to treat them as a text description to our what, our input. Okay, so that is what, that is label. Then also I want us to also look at other kind of inputs. Okay, so let's move on to give another input called the radio button. Now the radio button over here is used to define radio button for you to make selections, okay, out of one. Okay, maybe you have 3 or 4, so you want to make selection out of one. Okay, you need the radio button. Okay, so let's look at the radio button for this, and then let's get started. So I'll be here in same in the form again. In the same form, I'll need an input, so I'll look for input. Okay, this time going to be radio, so you have a radio as an input. Now the radio is going to have a particular attribute to itself. Okay, so let's look at what the radio is going to have. The radio is going to have what to call an id, a name, and a value. Okay, so I'll explain to you what they mean. An id, a name, and a value. So let's look at it. We have id, okay, then we have name, okay, name, then we have value. All right. So good. So here are they. Now the ID, in terms of you having two or more radio buttons. Okay, now the ID of a radio button must always remains what different from each other. Okay, so that you can do or select one particular what how do you call it, one particular box. Okay, so let's look at it. So maybe you have an idea of let's say language. Okay, so here languages. So here, let me put in a particular H2 or H3 element over here. So H3, and then I'll put in, say, um wow, what's happened to my distance? Okay. Oh, select language. Okay, so ID is over here. Then also, when we are done with your ID, let's say that we want, can also use the label. Okay, label for that. Okay, can use the what, the label for is correct. So you can use the label for. Okay, label for this thing. So I prefer using the this thing. So let's go on. So the name can be the name of the language you're going to sue, and the value can also be other stuffs.